The worst K-pop deaths ever. Jung Yun. Our first story takes us back to December 2017, when the K-pop world learned a valuable lesson that sometimes your demons don't come with warning signs. They come with coal briquettes. Meet Jung Yun, full name Kim Jong-hyun, lead vocalist of Shin, one of South Korea's biggest boy bands. The guy had it all: talent, fame, a devoted fan base that would literally move mountains for him. But here's where the story takes a turn darker than a coal briquette factory. On December 18th, Jung Yun checked into an extended stay hotel in Gangnam, which, if you know anything about Seoul, is basically the neighborhood version of I need to think about my life decisions. He didn't stick around long for that introspection. Police found him unresponsive in the hotel room. There, sitting peacefully on a frying pan, were some lit coal briquettes. Yes, you heard that right. Coal briquettes. Not a gun, not pills, not any of the traditional methods you might expect, but literal charcoal burning away, filling the room with carbon monoxide like some kind of medieval execution method. He was 27. But here's where it gets worse. 2 weeks before his death, Jung Yun handed a note to a friend, a musician named Nine from a band called Dear Cloud, and the note is, "I am shattered internally. The depression that had gradually consumed me ultimately overwhelmed me, and I couldn't overcome it." He basically said, hey, if I ever mysteriously die, post this on Instagram. And the thing is, when he died, that note actually went viral. It's like the most heartbreaking scheduled Instagram post of all time. And you know what I think? It's like the whole situation was planned so that his suicide note got maximum engagement, which is the saddest optimization strategy I've ever heard. Sully. If 2017 was K-pop's tragedy year, 2019 decided to double down. This is the story of Sully, real name Choi Jin-ri, and honestly, this one hits different. Sully was a child actress who became a pop star with the group FX. She was talented, beautiful, and she had options. Radical options like women should have rights and I shouldn't be cyberbullied for existing. Revolutionary stuff, you understand, right? But Korea's internet didn't appreciate her feminism. They attacked her constantly, like relentlessly. Over everything. What she wore, who she hung out with, what she said, what she didn't say. It was like having a million tiny demons living in her phone, screaming 24/7. So what did Sully do? She actually started calling out the cyberbullying publicity. She went on TV shows specifically about toxic online comments. She tried to fight back. She literally petitioned her agency, SM Entertainment, to do something about it. 7 times. She begged them 7 times to take action against the people tormenting her online. And then one day in October, her manager couldn't reach her, went to check on her, found her hanging on the 2nd floor of her house. She was 25 years old. Here's the part that makes you want to throw your phone. After her death, people posted 7 petitions on the South Korean presidential website demanding that they finally do something about cyberbullying. You know what would have prevented all of this? Listening to Sully when she asked. 7 times. The internet killed her slowly, methodically, one comment at a time. And we all knew it was happening. We just didn't stop it. Guo Hara. Remember I said 2019 was doubling down? Yeah, about a month after Sully, another girl group member died. Her name was Guo Hara, former member of Kara. And here's the absolute unhinged part. She and Sully were close friends. So close that Hara had tried to kill herself earlier that same year in May, after her ex-boyfriend decided blackmail was a viable relationship strategy. Yeah, you read that right. Her ex had nudes and was threatening to release them. So naturally, she attempted suicide. But she survived that one, got treatment, and seemed to be on the recovery track. Then Sully died just 4 months later. And apparently, Hara couldn't handle the grief. On November 24th, she was found dead in her Gangnam apartment, left behind a suicide note, which is basically the K-pop equivalent of leaving a message. This is intentional. Please understand my pain. She was 28. The worst part? Her ex-boyfriend was still looming over her life, still threatening to release those photos. The legal battle was ongoing. So imagine living with that sword of Damocles hanging over your head while your best friend just died from online harassment. That's not just depression. That's a perfect storm of betrayal, harassment, and isolation. The K-pop industry had 2 funerals to plan before Halloween decorations came down. Ladies' Code. Now we're going back to 2014, because sometimes tragedy doesn't need mental health crises or cyberbullying. Sometimes it just needs a rainy night, a speeding van, and the tightest deadline in the world. The victim, a girl group called Ladies' Code. The perpetrators, Rain, bad luck, and a schedule tighter than a skincare routine. Here's what happened. It was 1:30 a.m. on a Wednesday. The group had just finished a concert and was heading to another gig. Because apparently in K-pop, you don't get sleep, you get a van and a prayer. They're driving on the Yeongdong Expressway near Seoul when the rain starts coming down. And I mean coming down, like biblical flood vibes. The van's back tire comes off. The driver, probably panicking and definitely speeding because the schedule doesn't care about weather, loses control. The van spins multiple times and then, bang, straight into the guardrail. Go-in newbie, 22 years old, was thrown around like a rag doll inside that van. She died at the scene. Just died. Collapsed like someone flipped off a switch. But wait, it gets worse. The van driver immediately calls for help. Yoonbai's bandmate, Rise, 23, is in critical condition. They rush her to the hospital for emergency brain surgery. And everyone's like, okay, maybe Rise will survive this nightmare. 3 days later, Rise is still unconscious, still in critical condition, still fighting. And then, on Sunday, September 7th, 4 days after the crash, Rise dies. She never woke up, never got to say goodbye, just went to sleep in a hospital bed and never opened her eyes again. 2 girls, 1 van, 1 rainy night, gone. The worst part, the police found out the driver was speeding to meet the schedule. So essentially, the K-pop industry's obsession with cramming 15 hours of work into a day directly contributed to these girls' deaths. The machine killed them, slowly, gradually, and then all at once on a wet highway. Lee Ji-han. Sometimes death doesn't care about your mental health or your schedule. Sometimes it just cares about math. Specifically, too many people, too small a space, gravity being a thing. Lee Ji-han was 24. He was an actor and a K-pop hopeful who had been on the reality show Produce 101. You know, the show where 101 kids compete for a chance at stardom. He was trying to make it in the industry. He had dreams. He probably had a contract. He definitely had a future. On October 29th, 2022, he went to Itaewon for a Halloween celebration. Itaewon is basically Seoul's party district, where young people go to dress up, get drunk, and pretend they're not exhausted from their jobs. What he didn't know was that 100,000 other people had the same idea. So there's this narrow alley in Itaewon, a really narrow one, like 2 people can barely fit side by side. And 100,000 people decided this was the place to party. A narrow alley for 100,000 people. Do you see where this is going? The crowd surges. People start pushing. Nobody can move. It's not a stampede. It's worse. It's a slow, agonizing crush, where people can't breathe, can't move, can't escape. Someone falls. Then someone falls on top of them. Then someone falls on top of that person. It becomes a human pile of bodies, all slowly being suffocated under the weight of partygoers who just want to see a celebrity. Lee Ji-han had died in that pile. He was crushed to death by the collective weight of everyone's desire to have a good time on Halloween. And here's the sick part. Nobody was prepared. There was no crowd control measures, no barriers, no official organizers, no police presence. Just, let's see what happens when we let 100,000 people into a space designed for 5,000. Spoiler alert, 154 people died, most of them in their 20s and 30s. Lee was one of them. The universe said, you want to celebrate Halloween? Here's your nightmare. Jae-yoon. And now our most recent story, because apparently K-pop deaths don't stop happening. They just keep evolving into new nightmare scenarios. Jae-hyun was the youngest member of the group called Fable. They weren't famous, they didn't win any awards, they didn't trend on Twitter, but they had fans, people who cared, people who thought Jae-hyun had something special, a soft voice, a kind presence, a brightness that stood out even in a group of good people. He debuted in 2020, so he was still young in the industry, still figuring everything out, still hoping. And then, sometime between 2023 and 2025, he got leukemia. Leukemia, a blood cancer that just decides your bone marrow is making too many defective white blood cells, so enjoy that. And Jae-yoon, instead of telling the world, instead of making an announcement, instead of doing literally anything public, he just kept it quiet. He battled it alone. On June 29, 2025, his former bandmate Ho-jun posted a heartfelt Instagram tribute that basically said, I didn't know you were suffering. I heard the news too late. I'm so sorry I wasn't there for your last journey. That's when everyone found out. That's when fans realized Jae-yoon had been fighting one of the most serious diseases a person can face, completely privately, completely alone, probably completely terrified. He was 23 years old, born April 7, 2002, died June 29, 2025. And the saddest part, we don't know the details. There are no headlines, no shocking revelations, No dramatic circumstances, just a kid who tried to handle an impossible situation with grace and silence, and ultimately lost to a disease that doesn't care about grace or silence. He was just here, and then he wasn't. Minwoo. Sometimes the most tragic deaths are the ones that announce themselves the least. Minwoo was 32 or 33, sources vary, but honestly, does it matter when you're dead? He was the leader of 100%, one of those mid-tier K-pop groups that had enough fans to matter, but not enough fame to be a household name. The kind of group you stumble on while watching random music videos at 2 a.m. and thought, these guys deserved better. March 25th, 2018. Minwoo is at home in Gangnam. He's not at a concert. He's not on tour. He's not doing an award show with uncomfortable outfits and forced smiles. He's just home, living his life. Being a dude in his own space, probably doing the same boring human things the rest of us do. Scrolling through a phone, reheating food, pretending to rest. And then his heart decided it's time to leave. Nobody really knows who found him. The reports are vague, almost suspiciously vague. The kind of vague where you reread them thinking you missed a detail. But no, just emptiness. Someone called emergency services. They arrived. They found him without a pulse, lying in his apartment. A normal day instantly turning into one of those moments people talk about for years. Pronounced dead at the scene. The official cause? Cardiac arrest. No warning, no build-up, no dramatic final moment. Just a heart that silently clocked out like it had been planning its exit behind everyone's back. A light switch flipped, and that was it. His agency released a statement that was painful in its simplicity, talking about how he loved his members and fans sincerely, how his kindness made the loss even heavier. He was 32 or 33. We'll never really know if he even got to celebrate his last birthday. Before we end, I want to ask you this. Which of these tragedies shocked you the most? And why do you think the K-pop world keeps facing stories like this? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe. See you in the next video.